Here's the thing, when it comes to video games, you can pretty much naturally assume that you're going to end things in a better state than when you started them. It's usually the world goes to hell and you're the one to save it, right? Well, not these games, because they go out on a pretty dour, sour note. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 video games where you lose no matter what. Number 9, YAKUZA 0. So YAKUZA 0 is the fantastic prequel to the entire YAKUZA series. In this, you play as a young Kazuma, first starting out his days as an enforcer for a clan. He gets caught up in a criminal plot involving real estate, assassination, and indeed, disco dancing. In between the fistfights and karaoke, the ultimate goal of the game is to have him and his unknowing compatriot, Goro, survive and discover the truth behind the plot to frame him and murder a blind woman. But in the end, no matter how much money you've acquired, how many women you've dated, how many games of dance that you've won, the storyline always progresses to the same ultimate goal, the first YAKUZA game. In 0, you solve the property problem and the 3 jerkwad lieutenants fighting over your adoptive father's position as second in command to the clan all wind up either dead or in jail, and you save the girl. But the douche behind it all comes out and sexually assaults your sister, for which you go to jail for in YAKUZA 1. And that is a rough break. Number 8, Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics is one of the all-time greatest games of the series, and it's not even a numbered entry. Filled with solid character portraits, sprites, and cutscenes, the music is top-notch in a series already noted for its high-quality music, and the writing is pretty damn good, even with an English translation that is considered by many to be pretty subpar. The story is rife with political intrigue, warfare, backstabbing, betrayal, and death. In the end, though, the hero, Ramza, fights off against a false god and sacrifices the lives of himself and his friends to kill the demon leader. Though their fates are technically left ambiguous, the last survivor of the group writes a scathing report to publicize all of the evil doing of the church and reveal the truth. And you know what? He's burned at the stake for it. Cut to a few centuries into the future, and our burnt friend's descendant goes about researching and publishing the truth. The idea being, of course, that the game that we've just played through is actually him reading his executed ancestor's report. But quite frankly, that means that even if he succeeds in bringing down the church, they were the victors in that war for centuries. Number 7, Max Payne, the entire series. The original Max Payne has the titular character's family gunned down by a cracked-out addict, which you later learn was actually a plot to assassinate Max's wife. Through much bloodshed and trauma, and of course narcotics, Max learns the truth and eventually avenges his wife by killing the woman who orchestrated it all, Nicole Horn. But in the end, the secret society that Horn worked for, the Inner Circle, still exists and still pulls all the strings in the city when Max Payne 2 starts. Likewise, the local crime family, who Max had infiltrated as an undercover cop, is still around. Max's buddy and ally from the first game, Lem, also winds up being the ultimate villain in the second game. Max ultimately failing is a reoccurring motif, it really is. And by Max Payne 3, he's a washed-up former cop nursing a handful of addictions in a broken-down apartment building, which proves that even if you beat the second game on the highest difficulty and unlock the air-quotes good ending where Mona survives, 8 years later, she's gone anyway. Max does not get a happy life, or even a remotely successful one. Number 6, XCOM. In the XCOM games, you play as the leader of an anti-alien paramilitary force attempting to save the Earth from all manner of enemies, including psychic Martian-looking grey men, large, well-armoured, brutish mutant berserkers, giant sword-limbed insects that lay eggs in your corpses, and gangly men in suits that are secretly large-breasted snake women in disguise. It is a wild game, and I love it. But with the release of XCOM 2, you have come to the realization that you've actually failed in the first game. XCOM 2 takes place 20 years in the future, where you play as a leader of what remains of the XCOM organization, which has now been relegated to a resistance force. Many argue that XCOM 2 is an alternate universe where the player lost, but lacking an XCOM 1.5 where you play a happily married retired military commander, there is no canon game where the player succeeds. And even discounting that, at least in XCOM 2, you failed your missions. The aliens won. The booby snakes took over the Earth, which I guess means the true victors are the aliens, and indeed the furry community. Brilliant. Number 5, Spec Ops: The Line. Oh, it's WhatCulture's favourite son, it's Spec Ops: The Line, where you play as Captain Martin Walker on a quest to find the truth about what happened to Colonel John Conrad. In the course of this bitter quest, you indeed manage to drop white phosphorus on a group of civilians and indeed the American soldiers that were trying to protect them from you. You then have a psychotic breakdown and begin talking to a broken radio. You doom the city to death by dehydration by mistake, ultimately falling for a ploy by the CIA to kill everyone and cover up the war crimes the Colonel's forces committed. And at the end of it all, you discover that Conrad died by suicide weeks before your arrival. Whether you also die by suicide, surrender to an incoming military convoy, kill the whole convoy, or die in the final shootout, you still failed your mission and everyone around you has also died. Number 4. Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. So one can look at the Legend of Zelda series as a greater narrative of eternal reincarnation, and Skyward Sword takes place at the very beginning of this eternally retold tale. In the game, Link, technically in his earliest incarnation, here is a knight in training within an aerial land known as Skyloft. Link works together with Zelda to kill an ancient evil known as Demise, and that Zelda is secretly the mortal reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. But, as is usual in a Zelda game, she gets kidnapped. This time, she's taken into the past and used to resurrect Demise before Link can kill him. Demise curses Link and Zelda to battle his vengeful spirit for eternity, and in the end, you, as Link, may have saved the world and founded Hyrule on the surface, but you've also doomed the world to generations of Ganon's attacks. Number 3. Velvet Assassin. So can we be honest with each other for a second? Velvet Assassin is a terrible game and you've already lost by simply playing it. For those of you who are lucky enough not to have played it, congratulations, you are technically the only winners here. The game is loosely based on the life of Violet Szabo, a badass special operatives agent for the British during World War II, who was eventually captured in occupied France and executed by the Germans in a concentration camp. Velvet Assassin's Violet Summer doesn't fare much better, though she did perform far more missions than her real-life inspiration. Summer starts the game in a coma after being shot by a sniper, and most of the game occurs as flashbacks of her previous missions. Ultimately, though, she awakens just as the Germans take over the hospital that she's in. She flees and comes across an SS unit known for committing numerous atrocities and war crimes. They round up a bunch of villagers and lock them in a burning church. Violet heroically attempts to save them, but fails. She then collapses and is implied to either be captured by her SS nemesis or ends her life via jumping from a cliff. Brutal, right? Number 2. Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So in the original Modern Warfare, you play as a few major players in the fight against Russian ultra-nationalist Zakhaev, including Sergeant John Soap McTavish and Sergeant Paul Jackson. So I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. As Jackson, you die from radioactive fallout after narrowly surviving the detonation of a nuclear warhead. So we're already not doing great with one of our two main heroes dead halfway through the game. As Soap, though, you eventually save America from a bunch of nuclear missiles that Zakhaev fires, but in the process of chasing him down, much of your unit is either killed or wounded. Your allies come to your aid and you're still able to kill the man. Everything is ultimately covered up to preserve international relations. Except though in Modern Warfare 2, you learn that thanks to the cover-up, the Russian people commemorate Zakhaev as a martyr and his ultra-nationalist party takes control of the country. Meanwhile, in America, a leader betraying his own men ensures that a war starts anyway. So in the end, Zakhaev won, getting exactly what he wanted. And number 1, Quantum Break. Remedy Games has a history of things not working out well for their main protagonist. Alan Wake gets trapped in a lake, Max Payne's life is a wasted basket of remorse, but maybe things will be a bit better in Quantum Break, right? Well, wrong. In the end of Quantum Break, though it does have a few different branches of the story, you ultimately wind up detailing your information to one of the bad guy's minions. The issue really comes from the constant reminder that you can't change the past. What you've seen in the future will always occur. And so Beth Wilder's been to the future. She's seen the literal end of time, when the world ceases to be as we all know it. The world ends and everything that you've done in the game to stop it, including detailing the Ark, which is a last chance method for humanity to exist once the event occurs, is ultimately a failure. So unlike the other Remedy titles, not only does the protagonist get screwed over, but in this one, you've likely doomed all of humanity as well. Way to go. And there we go, my friends. Those were 9 video games where you lose no matter what. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. That's Dice with a C over on Twitch, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Even though we detailed today a lot about video game protagonists who started out on a hard road and things got infinitely harder, let's try and end things with a bit more positivity and be kind to ourselves both mentally and physically, my friends, because you deserve all of the best things in life. Yes, you do. Love, happiness and success. Do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? Now go out there and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.